on the back of a recovery truck. I've just taken delivery of this microphone gizmo thing. Still covered in dust from County Fermanagh. Say testing 1, 2.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me now?
While we're on the subject of tools, I've actually acquired some new ones. Really appreciate APC for giving me them. And that means the battery isn't charging. Check out the Mark 6 Fiesta. Looks like they've flared the arches. It is very wet, certainly loads of fun in the wet. Maude. What do you reckon then, people? Mk1 Golf. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and as you can see, I'm now back at home in England after an epic trip to Northern Ireland with my beautiful girlfriend Kat and Esther, my ST170 powered Mk1 Escort. Now, if you haven't seen all the videos from that trip, do go back and watch them. We had an awesome time, met some great people, saw some awesome cars, and there was a bit of grief with the car while we were over there. Now, I didn't bother vlogging the journey home from Northern Ireland, but we did have a bit of grief on the way home. In fact, Esther spent the last 30 miles of the journey on the back of a recovery truck, and I'll fill you in with what happened there once I get round to the garage here at home. But yeah, today I wasn't going to bother filming, but I've got a new toy as part of my filming rig, so I wanted to test it out. I'm just filming on my phone to save me having to find a memory card and stuff for the other GoPro. But yeah, you can see that I've now got my media mod back on my GoPro, which I haven't used for ages. I bought this when I first got the GoPro Hero 10 and decided not to use it because I don't like the way that, you know, there's a mic on the front and the back, but you can't have them both working at the same time. And the only way to switch from front to back is by messing around with the settings on the screen. And to get decent sound quality, you must do that every time you sort of turn the camera around. Anyway, I've now got the media mod back on because I've just taken delivery of this microphone gizmo thing called the DJI mic. I've actually been waiting ages for this because they kept putting the release date back further and further. And yeah, it consists of this transmitter, which is plugged in to the media mod, and the media mod actually has a place for it to hang off as well. And yeah, you also get two of these wireless microphones, one which is hooked up to my shirt, and yeah, this other spare one. A couple of different connectors so that you can actually connect this transmitter to an Android or an iPhone if you wanted to. But yeah, I'm hoping that this gizmo is going to vastly improve the audio quality of my videos. Back on the GoPro now, and yeah, the audio quality, especially when I'm driving the cars, is horrendous with, you know, the normal GoPro microphone. So yeah, do let me know in the comments if this new mic setup has improved the audio of this video. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to tell straight away when I'm editing this video though. Anyway, as I mentioned a minute ago, I'm going to fill you in with what exactly happened with Esther on the way home from our trip. So I'll meet you round at my garage here at home. Well, here she is, still covered in dust from County Fermanagh. It's absolutely filthy. In fact, I haven't washed this car since the day before the Summit show. And then she obviously got really dirty on the Summit run. Now, one good thing about me having this new mic setup is that I don't necessarily have to be right next to the camera for you guys to hear me. So I've got Kat mic'd up at the moment.
Hello.
And yeah, if you just walk all the way over there and say testing 1, 2.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me now?
And yeah, I think the range on these is like 250 yards or 250 meters. So yeah, miles away. But one good thing about it as well is that obviously at the moment, the receiver is plugged into the camera. So whatever's going through both mics is going to be recorded into the camera. But these little microphone transmitters or whatever it is, they actually have their own memory built into them. So if you press record on them, the red light should come on. And it's not. Ah, there you go. So yeah, they both have their own inbuilt memory, so they can record audio themselves. If I wanted to, you know, have two separate files inside and outside, I can do that as long as I, you know, set each of these to record. Anyway, let's pull this old banger out of the garage. So yeah, you should be able to hear me nice and clearly now, even though the camera is outside. I'll I'll just start her up, if she'll start. Yeah, she barely started, but I'll explain all about that in a minute. But yeah, if I now wanted to switch to just the audio outside the car, I can do, like this. Alright, so I've just spent some time putting my socket set back in its box. I actually took this set with me on the Northern Ireland trip, but I had them in a bag. And while we're on the subject of tools, I've actually acquired some new ones. So I went on a bit of a spending spree in Lidl the other day. Now Lidl sell these parkside tools, which are very cheap, but I've heard that a lot of them are really good. So I've got a new cordless jigsaw. Here we've got batteries and a charger. Also picked up a cordless polisher, and I picked up a couple of these sort of tool holders, a couple of spanner ones, and then these are sort of magnetic bars to hold spanners or whatever. I also picked up this angle grinder stand, which I'm guessing sort of turns your handheld angle grinder into a sort of bench grinder. So that might come in handy one day. And picked up this portable angle grinder. I've already got a corded angle grinder at the other garage, but yeah, why not have a cordless one as well? I was also very kindly given some tools by the owner of APC Installations Limited, which is a supporter of this channel, and they are mechanical contractors and industrial plumbing and gas engineers. And in this very smart Milwaukee bag are said tools. So we've got this electric ratchet, I think you'd call it. It's going to come in very handy for jobs where I haven't got room for my electric impact gun thing. Yeah, really, really smart. And he's given me a charger and battery for that. And he also gave me this really small impact gun with another battery. So yeah, they're going to come in really handy. And yeah, I really, really appreciate APC for giving me them. So we'll chuck that bag in the back of Roger the Plastic Fiesta with all the other stuff that I need to take over to my other garage today. But before we leave here, I'm going to fill you in with all the details regarding why Esther actually needed to be recovered part of the way home from the Northern Ireland trip. Now, if you watched the Northern Ireland trip videos, you'll know that as well as having a serious issue with the clutch, Esther also had a problem with the alternator on the summit run. Now, when we fixed the alternator wiring during the trip a couple of times, I was able to see that the battery was charging because I've got this volt gauge, and I double checked it with my multimeter, but the light on the dash wasn't working. And the way it should work is that when you put your key in, turn it to the first click, the light comes on like this, and then when you start the engine, it should go out. Well, on the way home, that light actually came on whilst we were driving, and that means the battery isn't charging, which we confirmed at the time with the multimeter. So yeah, right now the battery is almost dead and the light stays on while the engine's running, which means that the alternator isn't working. And yeah, you'll see that the battery gauge is fully in the red and it doesn't get out of the red. So where I'm at now is, rather than, you know, spending a day trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the wiring, I'm just going to send the alternator off to be tested. If it's faulty, get a new one or get it repaired. And if it's not faulty, then I know that the alternator isn't actually what's causing this new problem. All right, so first things first, disconnect the battery, and then I just need to remove the alternator. It's not difficult at all. I'm going to loosen the idler pulley, so I've got slack in the belt. Got a bolt underneath there, which I actually had to replace while I was in Northern Ireland. Undo the wiring, obviously, undo this bolt here, and then the alternator will come off. And just like that, Esther's very lightweight and very small alternator is removed. Check out the Mark 6 Fiesta in front of us. Very uniquely modified. Looks like they've flared the arches. It's running pretty wide wheels, making an absolute racket. I might actually pull Maude out today and take her around the block, and we'll do a bit of a test to see how these mics do improve things when I'm driving my cars. And Maude would be the better test out of the two because she's way louder than Esther. Alright, off we go for a little drive in Maude, my Maude Mk2 Escort. I haven't taken this car for a drive for ages now. I hope the audio's coming through a little bit better than it normally would, because yeah, this car makes a load of racket. You'll have to excuse the noise of the exhaust hitting the anti-tramp bar if you hear that at any point. There it is. Yeah, this car's a lot of fun, but yeah, it does need a little bit of TLC, and it will be getting some at some point very soon. Hello, into a new day. It's been about a week since I removed Esther's alternator, and I've now had it tested, and unfortunately it is completely scrap. The company that tested the alternator for me seemed to think that the failure has been caused by vibration. Now that was a copy Nippon Denso alternator, and apparently they're just not as good as the genuine Nippon Denso alternators. Now yesterday I had a package through the post from my friends at RETROFORD, and in that package is a genuine Nippon Denso alternator. Now I will leave a link to the RETROFORD website in the description. They do super high quality rear-wheel drive Z-Tech and rear-wheel drive Duratec conversion parts, and I've already got loads of their parts on Esther and also Maude. Anyway, let's have a look at this new alternator. So here is said new alternator. As I say, this is a genuine Nippon Denso one, and this is actually a 50 amp alternator, whereas the old one was a 40 amp. Although realistically, with Esther not having a stereo or anything like that, the 40 amp was sufficient. But yeah, this one does have a slightly higher output. It's already been fitted with the correct ribbed pulley to work with my setup. And yeah, hopefully once I bang this on Esther's engine, everything should work sweet. Fingers crossed there's not anything wrong with the wiring loom, apart from, of course, that alternator plug. Speaking of which, I do have a brand new one of them as well. Now, I've got this off of eBay, I think. I've bought a couple of them, so I've got a spare one. And this one actually has this sort of clip that holds it onto the alternator. The old one didn't have that, and I did have the issue where this kept coming out of the alternator sometimes. So yeah, as you can see, that one's gonna sort of hold itself in there. In fact, it's quite hard to get out. There you go. Now I have already lengthened the wires on this because you only get this much wire with it when you buy it. So yeah, I've added these bits of wires to it, and yeah, just need to add this to the loom, and then yeah, we'll have a brand new alternator plug. I've also been to Toolstation to buy some bolts. The bottom bolt here that attaches to the bracket, that actually snapped in Northern Ireland, and I had a bolt in there that someone gave me that was actually an M8, whereas it should be an M10. So yeah, bought a pack of these M10 by 60 bolts. I've already got some nuts in the garage. So yeah, I'm pretty confident that I've got everything I need to get Esther back on the road, and I'm going to be going around the garage tomorrow morning to fit this alternator. And yeah, hopefully taking her for the first spin in over a week, actually. Hello, right, into the next day. And I've now got Esther's brand new alternator installed. I still need to finish up the wiring. I haven't got anything around here to heat up these solder crimp things. So yeah, I'm going to drive her around to my house, around the corner, and heat those up with a lighter, and then those connections will be finalised. And then at some point I need to tidy up the wiring in general. I'll probably put that black corrugated sleeving stuff around it again, how it was before. But yeah, everything's hooked up, the plug's in, and I've already tested the alternator and it is charging, but not as well as I would like. So if we flick the ignition on, you can see that the battery light does come on the first click. As you can see, the battery light is now off while the engine's running, which is how it should be. And the battery gauge is in the green, but only just. So as you can see, at idle, it's only 12.5 volts. If I rev it, it does go up. To about 13.8 or 13.9 volts. Now ideally that should be at over 14 volts at idle. Now if I switch this to ohmage, so we're testing continuity, and I put one on the negative terminal and then one on the cylinder head where the earth wire attaches, you'll see that there is continuity, but there's quite a lot of resistance. You know, it's 11 point something, and ideally that should be 0 or, you know, 0.1, 0.2. So yeah, the engine earth isn't as efficient as it should be. So I might have to change this earth wire that goes from the engine. It also attaches to the body here and then goes to the battery. Or maybe I'll add another earth wire as well, just have another earth wire coming off the engine this side, because yeah, you need a good earth connection between the body of the alternator and the battery. And obviously that connection at the moment goes into the engine and then from that earth wire to the battery. And what I can actually do is I can test between the alternator body and the bracket, and you know, it's 0.1, so that's perfect. I can then test between the bracket, and I'll put the other one on the cylinder head where that earth wire is. You know, it's not 0, but it's certainly lower than 11 or whatever it was. So yeah, there's not a great earth between the bracket and that wire, and there's an even worse connection between the wire and the battery. Now, I don't know if those grounding issues would be what caused the old alternator to die, but yeah, at least this alternator is charging the battery when you're revving it at least. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pack up around here, go round to my house to heat up those solder joints so I can finalise that, and then I'm going to take Esther for a spin. It is very wet. I don't really like taking Esther out when it's wet, but she is so filthy and she needs a wash anyway, so don't think it's going to matter. It's certainly loads of fun in the wet with this much power and such a light car. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that I recently had to change the clutch in this car whilst I was on my Northern Ireland trip, and loads of you have been in touch with your opinions as to why the clutch failed prematurely. And a lot of you have been saying that maybe the throw of the clutch is just too much, and I can definitely tell that I don't need to push the clutch all the way down to the floor to change gear. Some of you guys were saying that maybe I should fit like a pedal stop to prevent the clutch going all the way to the floor, and I was thinking that maybe I could get like a door stop, you know, a rubber door stop that you'd use at home, drill a hole in the floor under where the clutch pedal meets, and yeah, that would be a decent way of preventing the pedal going too far. So I think I'm gonna go to a local hardware shop and see if I can grab something like that. I also want to see if my local jet wash is not too busy. I just want to get all the dust off it, because yeah, the car is really filthy. And then after that, I think I'm going to go over to my other garage, because I want to tuck Esther away and get Maude, my Mk2 Escort, back on the road for daily duties. Alright, so I've made it to my other garage. I had so much fun on the way here. Esther is awesome to drive in the wet. although I don't want to make a habit of it. She's still absolutely filthy because the jet wash that I went to didn't seem to be working. I might see if I can blast her with a hydro shot quickly before I leave here in a little while. I've now got Maude, my moredoor Mk2 Escort, out of the garage, and I will be taking her home today. But before I do that, I need to address the issue of her exhaust banging on the anti-tramp bar. It's just one of the rubber mounts that's flung off and is missing. So before the rain gets any worse, I'm going to jack her up and sort that out. Alright, so it's this mount here that's missing its rubber. This is actually, I think, the rear seatbelt mount hole, and in there I've got a harness eye that I've cut a slit in, so I've turned it into a hook, and then I've got this hook which is sort of clamped onto the exhaust here. And yeah, basically the exhaust is hitting the tramp bar here. So if I can get one of these rubbers on there just to hold it a bit more solid, it should be alright. Yeah, see, it's just slightly more difficult now for the exhaust to hit the tramp bar. Suppose I should show you my good friend John's latest acquisition, this Mk1 Golf. Now, I love a Mk1 Golf, but this one definitely needs quite a bit of TLC, plenty of rust around it. I know these Mk1 Golfs are going up in value, but this is going to be a big restoration job to get this back on the road. The rear panel there is hanging, look, big bit missing. Broken rear light, yeah, more rust around the arches and the seals. Bottom of the door, they're sitting on some sort of aftermarket alloys. What's that say on there? 1000 Miglia. Yeah, it's completely stripped out. Floors aren't completely gone, but definitely signs of surface rust. I'm not sure if this was a GTI or what. Some sort of flash aftermarket exhaust on it by the looks of it. Guessing it was a sunroof model and it's obviously leaked, so they've put this sheet over the top. But what do you reckon then, people? Mk1 Golf. Not sure if John's going to be doing this one up or selling it, but I'll ask him when I see him. Now, I suppose before I leave here, or before I put Esther away and leave here, I should have a look at trying to do the clutch stop that I mentioned. Now, the door stops that I picked up from Wickes earlier are a bit small. I had a feeling they were going to be too small, to be honest, but they were cheap, so I just bought a few of them. I thought I might be able to stack them up and make them work, but alas, they aren't going to work. But I do have this exhaust mount rubber thing, which might work. So yeah, if I can put this on the bulkhead there, so that the pedal doesn't go all the way down, that might actually work. I'm not sure whether to drill a hole and bolt it. I mean, if the pedal was out the way, then, you know, I could drill a hole and probably riv nut it, or if I had someone else with me, I could probably just about get the drill in at an angle and nut and bolt it. But seeing as I'm on my own, I might actually just try and stick this to the bulkhead for now, because I'm probably going to go online and see if I can get like a doorstop this size maybe, or maybe even a bit taller, but, you know, this size, or, you know, certainly not as small as these. Something that's at least as wide as the pedal here. So for a temporary job, I might actually get the CT1 building sealant out and just glue it to the bulkhead essentially. Give the area a bit of a scotched. What a generous blob. I'm well aware that it looks like an eyesore, but I'm not really bothered. Alright, so it's been a couple of hours since the last clip, and just after I fitted the clutch pedal stop to Esther, I took Maude to the shop. And whenever I went over bumps, I could still hear the exhaust hitting the anti-tramp bar. It wasn't as bad as it was before I fitted the rubber mount today, but the noise was definitely still there. So seeing as I was already out and about, I decided to drive to Halfords and buy a smaller one of those rubber rings. So you can see the smaller rubber ring there. Actually had to jack the exhaust up for me to be able to get that on there, and yeah, it's definitely a lot more sturdy with that shorter ring, and hopefully it will keep it away from the anti-tramp bar. In fact, there's already a bigger gap there than there was
when I put the bigger one on before. Now, what I did notice when I was jacking up the exhaust is that the joint over there was loose enough for the exhaust to actually rotate. So I pushed the exhaust so it was straight, and I've gone and done up that clamp at the front, which should stop it moving about. And that as well, I'm sure, will help keep the exhaust away from the anti-tramp bar. So yeah, the way it is now, I actually can't make it hit the anti-tramp bar. Another thing I noticed though, on this handbrake rod there, the bush was missing. Now this isn't the correct bush, it's just one that I found in my garage. I think that one is actually one of the bushes that go in there in the spring hanger. But yeah, this was, you know, rattly as well. I don't know if that was the noise maybe that I thought was the exhaust, but yeah, with that bush in there, that should, you know, stop any noise potentially coming from there.
Oh, my good friend John did pop round a while ago, and he's confirmed that he is actually keeping and restoring this Mk1 Golf. So yeah, can't wait to see that thing come together. Anyway, time to get Esther away in her garage. I'm not going to worry about jet washing her today. And then get Maude back on all fours. And I'm going to jump in her and make my way home. All right, it is rush hour, so gonna have to get through a load of traffic to make my way home. One thing I didn't mention is that the clutch pedal stop seems to work absolutely fine. I haven't got much hope of it staying attached to the bulkhead just with the CT1 sealant. Yeah, I probably will need to nut and bolt it, but yeah, it definitely works. The clutch pedal's got enough travel for me to change gear, and yeah, it keeps the pedal a good, you know, few inches away from the bulkhead. Now, I've only gone over one speed bump so far, but it seems like the noise I was getting from this car at the rear end, the exhaust hitting the anti-tramp bar, it seems like that problem has gone away. But because the exhaust in general is a little bit closer to the floor now, it's actually hitting the floor at the front more, only when the cars are idle. So I might have to get the hammer out to modify the floor a little bit more there. Now, I get loads of messages asking me about, you know, what shows I'm going to and stuff. And a lot of the time, the shows I go to, you know, it's a last minute decision. And I don't want to put it out on the internet to say, oh, I'm going to this show if I'm not 100% sure that I'm going. So, you know, follow me on Facebook or Instagram, because I always post on there where I'm going. Although sometimes it literally is, you know, on the day. But one show I am definitely going to is the OSO Retro show on the 25th of this month. That's being held in Margate. Me and Kat are actually going to go down the day before and stay in a hotel. And then, yeah, I've actually got a show pass, hoping to take Esther with me. I'm not having a proper club stand, but yeah, I do have a ticket to get my car into the show. I might actually try and arrange something the day before, seeing as we're already there. Maybe try and arrange a sort of sporadic car meet in Margate. So yeah, get in touch if you live anywhere near Margate, or if you're going to the OSO Retro show and like me, you're going there the day before, if you'd be up for, you know, having a bit of a car meet and, you know, getting together. I think it'd be really cool. Great excuse for a video, you know. So back at home after an eventful commute, and all seems okay-ish with Maude. Obviously got loads of banging and stuff on her chassis that I need to deal with, but she'll be getting some upgrades soon, so I'll have a look around and try and suss those bits out while she's getting those upgrades. When I was putting her back in the garage though, the alternator light started flicking, and I was thinking, oh God, not an alternator issue with this car as well. But as it turned out, one of the wires where it goes onto the alternator, there's a ring terminal, and yeah, the wire's just broken away from the ring terminal. And it's not the first or the last time that one of my wiring jobs has failed. And yeah, that'll be an easy fix, so happy days. I'm very happy to have Esther now back on the road, and I was really happy to be able to take her back to her garage and get Maude back on the road on daily duties. And yeah, both cars will be getting some upgrades very soon. The next video has already been shot, but the video after that, I'm probably gonna dive into fitting some dream parts to Esther, and then I'm gonna crack on with fitting some bits to Maude. So that's a general idea of what's to come on the channel. Before I go, I want to send a massive thanks out to RETROFORD for supplying the alternator for Esther. I will leave a link to their website in the description. They do loads of really high quality conversion parts for Z-Tech conversions and Duratech conversions, but that's not all. They're always developing new parts for classic Fords in general, and they've got their own YouTube channel, which I'll leave a link to in the description. So yeah, definitely go and check out their YouTube channel, and definitely let them know that I sent you if you do get in touch with them. So other than that, I'm going to end this video here. If you did think it was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media, my own website. I'll also leave a link to my Patreon down there. Massive, massive thanks to all my patrons. I really, really appreciate your support. I'll leave my email address in the description for anyone who wants to contact me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.